FIFA is corrupt, and in other breaking news, the sky is blue, water gets you wet, and the Pope is Catholic. We knew all this, but finally, there has been some form of action taken to hold those accountable. So bear with me while I give you a ton of the logistics, which has now been called a day of reckoning, but not so much completely, because the man who is behind and our very well-crafted monitor loop, Jason Rubin, well done for that, has not been held accountable as of yet. So we will explain in detail what's going on. So at the moment, 9 FIFA executives, previously in employment and still currently employed by FIFA, have been indicted, along with 5 corporate executives. So FIFA is subject of 2 separate criminal investigations, one from the Swiss Attorney General regarding the voting process for the 2018 World Cup in Russia and 2022 World Cup in Qatar, and the other from the US Department of Justice, which resulted in the arrest of the 9 FIFA officials and 5 corporate executives on Wednesday. The charges, backed by an FBI investigation, allege widespread corruption in FIFA over the past 2 decades, involving bids for World Cups as well as marketing and broadcast deals.
This Department of Justice is determined to end these practices, to root out corruption, and to bring wrongdoers to justice. Now, the 14 defendants charged in the indictment we are unsealing today include high-ranking officials of FIFA, the international organization responsible for regulating and promoting soccer, leaders of regional and other governing bodies under the FIFA umbrella, and sports marketing executives who, according to the indictment, paid millions of dollars in bribes and kickbacks to obtain lucrative media and marketing rights to international soccer tournaments. The 47-count indictment against these individuals includes charges of racketeering, wire fraud, and money laundering conspiracies spanning 2 decades.
One main point I have to mention there is that as of the executives who are held accountable at the moment, it isn't exactly for the 2018 and 2022 World Cups, which many people will actually assume, although I do believe that this will come into play much in the near future, because there was actually a raid of the FIFA main offices in Zurich, which they took laptops, documents, everything, to basically gather as much evidence as they possibly could to make a big campaign.
They also, I know that they staged search warrants for CONCACAF, which headquarters is in Miami.
Yeah.
But a lot of the big names at play here, Jack Warner, Jeffrey Webb, Eugenio Figueroa, excuse the pronunciation on that, Eduardo Lee, Nicolas Leoz, and Jose Marin. You're going to hear a lot of these people's names. There's a card for everybody: Kostas Takis, Aaron Davidson, Hugo and Mariana Gingis. These names are going to be coming up a lot in news in the next. This is going to be a drawn-out process.
Yeah.
One of the main things from the New York Times, that's who I want to say broke this article, because I remember seeing that written last night when I got all the updates from Bleacher Report, all linking back to the same New York Times article. And this is the very start of this process. Yes, they indicted 9 officials, arrested 5. And what's so interesting about this is, well, one thing I found very interesting about this, at least, is the fact that the U.S.'s treaty with Switzerland, in which you can indict officials on general crimes but not tax crimes.
Yeah.
And this falls under general crimes. The USA, of course, gets the indictment because it's the FBI and the IRS.
And a lot of the wire transfers were used with U.S. banks. So, I mean, as much as we did see what General Lynch said, I do want to quote, which is partly the reason why I think that it's essential that this is brought to light, that this is not just of the recent World Cup campaigns that are in 2018 and 2022. This is 24 years.
This is the first thing. That's the first thing I wanted to distinguish, is that you have to separate 2018 and 2022 World Cups and the bidding process entirely separate from 2010 in South America. South Africa, I'm sorry. Yeah. When they won the World Cup bid, it was the first time it was in that country, and a lot of marketing firms started to get put into play. And this goes back 2006, 2002, 98, 94, and this is all going to be dug up. The information is, they've acquired all the electronic information, documents, emails, text messages, everything. Yeah. But that information has not been released as to exactly what was said.
Well, in the 2016 Copa America, which for the first time in history is supposedly to be held in the United States, that's another one that's being investigated because it is involved in the bribes that, of course, it was said to be taken. Football, in general, doesn't suffer the same fate as since I've been in the United States to certain other sports. Like, you don't see as much domestic violence cases, you don't see any drug abuse, as much of the drug abuse policies that we see here.
Clean sport overall.
But yeah, it's a little bit more of a clean sport. When it comes to FIFA, we all know that it's corrupt, right? So the way I imagine FIFA, when you inherit football, right, to be the organization, is you're You're a kid coming up into a massive trust fund. You inherited all this money, this wealth. You've inherited something that you can do great things with. Instead of doing, all you have to really do is you have to just steer it in the right direction. You have to take it to places that will appreciate the game, that is safe to handle it, that can handle the expenses that it costs to hold such tournaments as the World Cup, as the Copa America, and to provide the fans with what they want to see. Because football, all you need is 2 goals and a ball. That's why it's one of the best sports in the world, because anyone can play it no matter what. That's why people will always watch it. That's why it is the most watched sport in the world, because every single country in the world plays this sport, right? So when you take that sport and you drag its name through the dirt because you want to make some extra change, it already generates a huge amount of revenue. It is ridiculous to me. Not only do you take this sport and you drag its name through the dirt, as I just said, you take it to places that jeopardizes players, fans' health, like well-being. You're taking it, first of all, let's mention 2018 in Russia. Although this hasn't been investigated yet as a corrupt, I will believe that will be involved in it here, because you're taking it there to a country that has been, of course, split with war-torn issues that are going on between themselves and Ukraine, and will be in the future, no doubt, before the 2018 World Cup. Known to be homophobic, known to have the racial issues. You're taking fans there. It's supposed to unite everyone under one tournament. You're supposed to come together. You see what happens when the World Cup comes around. Everyone comes together. Everyone wants to watch it. So that's 2018. 2022, you're going to take it to a place that is unsafe. You're trying to change it from a summer tournament and move it into the winter. You're telling me that that is something that is not profound as a form of corruption? Because clearly, come on, that's understandable. I've said this all before. We talked about it many months back when it was first decided that this is an issue. 2014 should never have happened. Brazil was not economically strong enough to take that World Cup and have it benefit the people. Who did it benefit? The pockets of the
14
politicians.
executives who just got their bribes.
Exactly. The people who got the bribes, the politicians involved. It's the reason why there's a stadium in Manaus that has been classed as the biggest bird shit catcher there's ever been.
So now it's a dump.
Yeah, it is a dump. That's what it is. No team can fill that stadium. So you have to think, and you have to look at all these specific tournaments and think, how much was this involved? How much was this the reason why this tournament was there and not in somewhere that could handle it, it could thrive, it could grow? The game doesn't change that much. You don't have to do much with it.
With this whole corruption scandal, this whole indictments, when it rains, it pours, and there's only going to be a ton more information as to why World Cups were selected and to what cities and for what reasons. I should say countries, not cities. And of course, 2018 and 2022, it's like we've been saying this since Qatar was selected. There's absolutely no way it can happen there. Yeah. You're jeopardizing health. Russia's got its own issues as to why it couldn't be. I shouldn't say couldn't, but should not be happening for reasons you just mentioned, the homophobia reasons, LGBT issues, racism issues, war-torn country. What's so frustrating with this entire process is that Sepp Blatter is not off the hook.
Yep.
And of course, the whole hope would be you strip everything down and you build anew.
Yep.
But that's a lot easier said than done. You have to get the right executives back in place because, again, when there's this much money on the line, look what happened for the last 24 years. I mean, this is indictments brought up on money laundering, briberies on just swaying a host country, and within our own country as well. Chuck Blazer.
Yeah, is a man who's apparently a whistleblower.
Was the U.S. representative and whistleblower who wore a wire and went in to do it, but he also has admitted or is going to be found guilty for accepting bribes.
Yeah,
and when you the amazing thing is when you look at like the past World Cup biddings, you see these names. Those 14 of those names are 14 of the 24 only people who get to bid on these World Cups. When there's executives who were banned from bidding on certain things so other executives can make their pockets go a little bit deeper for tens of millions of dollars. It's insane.
So, I mean, you look at some of the names that are involved, like we mentioned just briefly before, but if you talk at someone like Jeffrey Webb, who's the current FIFA Vice President and Executive Committee member of the CONCACAF, you know what I mean? And there's just so many pristine names that are involved thoroughly within the FIFA organization. And of course, the one name that we've got here that everyone's mentioning that hasn't been involved yet is Sepp Blatter. And there was a great article that came out, I can't remember who it was, it says that, yeah, you can hold all these guys accountable, but unless you remove the dictator from his throne, things will not change because he has installed this poison throughout FIFA. I mean, he's been obviously at the forefront of many different corruption scandals, and he's dodged them all because he's very smart and he's careful. Would not surprise me if he got off away from criminal charges. But what we have, as in everyone who's a fan of the game, is everyone whose organisation feels tarnished by this, like Platini of UEFA, who came out and said that they shouldn't have an election this Friday because this cannot happen.
Well, it's been postponed. Or UEFA is boycotting.
UEFA says they want it to postpone it, but that's not up to UEFA. They can just put their name in.
With this much shit rolling downhill, it will be amazing if this election goes on.
And that's what I'm saying. So what people need to do that love the game is they need to protest against this election happening because without this coming out, this could be the perfect time for it in order to stop a fifth campaign of Sepp Blatter because he was set to win it on Friday. It was just, as much as you might look into the mainstream media and you have people be like, oh, well, I don't want him to be there. We don't have a say. It's right. Officials that are involved in FIFA. But now with this coming to light, there is more power to everyone involved in the game and everyone who's got a voice, like UEFA, like specific teams, like sponsors, as you said, like McDonald's, are reconsidering their sponsorship in the future. Adidas as well. More of these brands, similar to what happened with Indiana, you have to boycott this problem. This is corruption. If this was a political government, right? And you're telling me that let's take for instance, this is people in Congress. This is a vice president. You're telling me that the president remains in charge when that happens throughout the government. You're fucking shitting me. No way does that go down. No way does that happen like that. The president has to be held accountable for what goes on throughout his company because he is one of the main decision makers. He's the one that chooses the sponsors. He's the one that helps in maintaining this game and upholding the name of FIFA, which has consistently went throughout.
He's the one who chooses the sponsors, or he's the one that bribes the
sponsors?
Yeah,
well, he's the one that probably takes some money as well. I mean, it's frustrating because I'll go back to my main point. You inherit a game that you don't need to change that much. Ever since the game has came about, you've got 2 goals, a ball, and one team that wins and one team that loses. Obviously, there's differentials over that, but it's the same goal. You don't need to do much to change it. You just have to navigate it in the right direction. And to see filth like this, navigate it in a way that's going to put, as I mentioned, players, fans, everyone in jeopardy of the game being changed, moving a World Cup to the winter, changing plans, changing everything that works. Why would you change what works just because you can keep your pockets full?
I want to go to Twitter. Because some of the tweets that came out were a little more lighthearted and funny to simmer the mood here of anger and...
It's getting a little hot in here.
It's getting a little hot, as Francis just said. So the first tweet is very pro-America. Dear world, we don't even like soccer and we're still going to clean up FIFA for you. Love America. Ian Bremer, FIFA and hijab must be part of the Qatar agreement. Just hiding everything. Next, there's been a few. This one's great. Brett McIntosh. I don't know who this is, but he's got a great tweet and saying, you have to wonder, upon being arrested, did FIFA officials fall down and writhe about in simulated anguish? I think that's a shot at both like players, FIFA, flopping, everything, and poor Neymar. And Gary Lineker, that was who I was thinking of. This is extraordinary. FIFA is imploding. The best thing that could possibly happen to the beautiful game. And it's truly sad that this sport, which has grown on myself, which has been a part of your life forever, and I mean, again, you're ignorant to argue that it's not the most watched sport in the world and it's not the world's favorite sport. It needs restructuring. It needs an actual dynamic that will work and be fair, especially when it comes to deciding World Cups. Look, as I got more into soccer, the one thing that I'm hoping comes out of this, and I don't know if it could happen, but in 2022, if the U.S. can get a World Cup bid out of this, or at least there's a fair vote for it. I know England might be option in 2018. It's insane to me to think in general how this could have happened in the first place, because when you look back at the World Cup biddings, you always think like, okay, England, who the Premier League, it's maybe the most beloved anywhere of all the countries in the world. It is soccer, football there. Gets beat out by Russia for the World Cup, and in 2022, the U.S. gets beat out by Qatar. Like. Mind-boggling, but making sense because FIFA, which now stands for finally indicting fraudulent assholes. Yeah,
well, I mean, that's pretty good actually. But the thing about it is, with a company like FIFA who has that amount of resources, and if you remember a famous interview in which a reporter asked Sepp Blatter, you guys are a non-profit? And he said, yes, we are a non-profit. And he goes, with $1 billion in reserve, like, what do you, $1 billion in reserve for a non-profit?
$5.7 billion over the 5-year period?
And this is the thing, so FIFA has the power to turn countries around and help countries economically grow, such as countries like Brazil, who they could have put the profit, the enormous amount of profit that they obtained to good use. As John Oliver says, it's like in the moment, FIFA is like wax all over your body. Like, it's everywhere. It's like money. It's everywhere. But then when they leave, they strip it with you. It's like your hair. They take it. They take everything with them. They go out. They come in and they help you at the time, but then they'll leave and they'll take every ounce of money with you and leave you with a massive stadium, 250 million it cost to build, that is now just, as we said, a dump in Brazil. It didn't help the poverty-stricken areas around it. Didn't help anything there. And it's frustrating because is a sport that upholds, it's supposed to uphold the value of the beautiful game and sportsmanship. It's disgraceful because they have the ability to do so. So, I mean, it's something that, as we know, is close to my heart. I get very passionate about it. But this is a good step, to start to cleanse it throughout. And there's more that's coming out, as we know. It's like, as new accounts of bribery continue to emerge, another whistleblower has said that 2 African officials were paid 1.5 million each to support Qatar. That's another fact. That's the reason why this new investigation is going to be coming forth. But in terms of the previous accusations, it's money. It's went up to 150 million plus.
So much.
One person, that's more. Apparently for the Copa America in 2016, 150 million was apparently paid out through bribes, which is 1/3 of the money that it takes to actually have that tournament take place. So 1/3 of that money went straight into executives' pockets who's trying to make it go forward.
To wrap this up, I guess, as best we can, timeline of events, really what happens is this is the beginning. This is not the end-all, be-all of what you're going to hear, because for the next 2-3 weeks, probably stretching out to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months, you got a lot of executives that have been indicted. You're going to have, there could be trials. There's going to be just an overbearing amount of news coming out. We're going to try our best to bring you as much as we can in a more organized fashion than this breaking, because this really did just happen not even 12 hours ago. But
similar to what we like to do at TYT Sports, we can always leave on a good note. So to take us out, I want to throw to a representative from the Department of Justice who so wittingly used some soccer terms to bring down FIFA to justice. So take a look at this and come back and make sure to subscribe to TYT Sports.
This really is the World Cup of fraud, and today we are issuing FIFA a red card.